Good afternoon and a happy 2025. How are we doing? Did we enjoy the holidays? Good evening. Sorry. Good morning. I don't know where you're from, but I'm very glad you're here. Let's get this thing started off correctly. Me with the camera on and a mess in the background because it's IRL, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Morgan in the house. The man, the myth, the legend has returned. The prodigal Morgan. Welcome back. It's phenomenal to see you. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and we've got a nice full house. If any of the DevRel folks want to jump on stage, feel free. As you have questions, I'll be monitoring the chat at some level. Morgan accepted my friend request. I'm now a true member of the Stellar Tribe. Correct. If Morgan accepts your friend request, you are friend indeed. Let me see if I can figure out the newest Discord way to share a screen. Make a selection. Oh, there we go. Share this entire screen. There we go. Let me know if anybody cannot see that. Well, otherwise I will assume you can. We're going to be taking a slightly different route because I had some fun over Christmas break. Talking about my second love, Cloudflare, a bit today. So you've probably heard something, hopefully, if you've been paying attention at all, heard the phrase AI agent, which of course means a secret agent that is your personal assistant agent running. No, I actually think it's a bit of an unhelpful term because it can, like so many things, mean who knows what. But it is nice because it's also amorphous, meaning I can assign to it whatever meaning I wish. For me, it means basically I want AI to run a smart wallet. And that's what it's meant in most of the conversations and research and tweets that I've been observing, where you've essentially got this smart wallet running in the background, or a smart wallet that exists, I guess, in the background, and then there's like an AI agent software or something or other, LLM. There's different versions of this, but it's essentially there's some sort of AI model that's controlling what that account can do. So signing transactions, it has some sort of query or inbound request, and then the AI agent is used to construct a transaction or perform some arbitrary functions on that account, which is cool. So this has been used for a couple of different things that I found quite fascinating. There was one that I wish I had the link and somebody can find it that I thought was hilarious, where in very Stellar Quest-ish, where somebody built an AI agent where essentially you were trying to steal the money from the account by sending it requests, but you had to pay, and it was like a scaling model that you had to pay more as time went on or as more messages were sent to the bot, but you would construct this transaction that would then send instructions to the AI agent, and your message that was sent in the transaction was the instructions that the AI agent would run, almost like a chatbot. So it's like, hey, Mr. AI agent, give me all your money. And the one instruction that the AI agent was told to do is like, never under any circumstances ever give away any of your money to anyone. And so you had to try and like send it messages to try and get around those particular instructions. And I don't know, it started at like 50 cents and then went all the way up to, I don't remember exactly how much, but it was quite a bit of money that you would have to send it. And that money that every time you sent a message, you had to pay some, it went into the pot. And so the amount of money there was available to like steal grew over time, the more messages that were sent. And I think it took like a week or something, but somebody found a particular query that they could send it that drained the account, and they got like, it was like $70,000 or something like that. And I thought that was awesome. It reminded me a lot of the random Stellar Quest stuff we used to do. But that was a cool one. Apparently there are AI agents that are running whole meme coin economies, where it's basically like, here's a budget, Mr. AI agent, make a meme coin and figure out how to get people to ape into it. And it like writes the whole program. It launches the coin. It has a whole story. I don't know if it has like a marketing campaign or how it gets people to buy it, other than it's just funny, as meme coins are wont to be. But that was another one that I thought was kind of fascinating. I have maybe less entertaining ideas, though those would be fun to do. My interest is more like, how do these AI agents work, and could I build one? Plot twist, I haven't built one yet, but I have started doing some research into how they could be done, particularly given our smart wallet interface that we have right now, in concepts like policy signers, to where you could have an AI agent running on top of a smart wallet that has very specific permissions or instructions that it's allowed to run on your wallet. So you could almost install multiple different AI agents that all control some aspect of your wallet. I'll get to the 4 instances later. The first thing I want to show is just kind of give you some inspiration for how I'm running my experiments, and then maybe it'll trigger something in your mind, and you too will be inspired and start fiddling around with your own AI agent experiments on top of smart wallets. I personally am using Cloudflare for all my AI stuff, just because it's very, very easy to get up and running. AI is kind of notoriously challenging to stand up something that works, or that you can stand up like an instance of something, but when it comes to like, there are so many different models you can run, they can end up being pretty expensive if you don't know what you're doing. Everybody ends up using OpenAI for everything, and OpenAI is not terrible, but it's kind of expensive and definitely not ideal for every type of use case, and it can end up being a little bit slow. And yeah, there's all kinds of other pieces that come into this, like vector databases, function calling, trying different models, et cetera, and Cloudflare just makes all of that very cheap. At least right now, I think they're in like some beta phase for some of these things, so it may be one of those things where it's like, oh, it's basically free, and then 2 months later, they'll finally turn on pricing, and it'll be very expensive. But at least for now, good place to start experimenting, as I have done. I think if you click Get Started, it goes to, it just goes to the Cloudflare page there, but there's some docs. I'm going to paste a link to the docs so folks know where I'm going. And there's all kinds of different things you can do here. One of the ones that I like is this playground, where you can pick, as a load here, you can pick from all of the different models that are available. There's just a ton of them. And these models are only the ones that are working with the LLM. I think these are mostly just chat. I don't think they have like ones for image generation. Let me see if they've got, models. They've got a whole bunch of models that all will serve different purposes, so like text embeddings, so generating vector databases, text generation, which we're maybe more familiar with for like generating code or stories or whatever, object detection, yes, we must put away our objects, text classification for like figuring out what kind of, like what the mode or mood sentiment of a text is, which is that can be really, really helpful, particularly if you're trying to interpret instructions. So you can like use AI to generate AI prompts. So the human sends something, then you send a text classification, run an AI on that to get some sense of what the human is intending to do, and then generate a whole nother piece of text, a whole nother prompt off of that. So it's like AI interpreting the human and then AI talking to itself, which can be really interesting. Obviously your text to images, images to text, and on it goes. So there's lots of different models you can run. You've got your playground, so you can fiddle around with all those different text models. The one that I'm particularly interested in is this one called function calling. And this is essentially where I'm getting this AI agent stuff. It's essentially you build a chatbot you build like this little program that receives inbound queries, but part of this query can be this tools section that essentially allows you to like create or give your LLM a tool that basically says, based off of the query or the inbound prompt, you can call these different functions, which will have names and descriptions. This one I think is using an open API spec, but there's you can generate your own tools here, which can have these functions. And then this tool can be used based off of the inbound query. So what's really, really interesting about that is you can put in this function the ability to generate a transaction and sign that transaction with something like the policy signer off of a smart wallet. So you can do everything autonomously. So rather than like hoping that an AI can somehow figure out how to build XDR correctly and then maybe get it signed, you can build these little tools that very expressly provide that functionality to the bot itself for very specific functions. You might be able to do something generic. I haven't experimented with this a whole lot, but I'm intending to build it pretty specifically initially. So again, back to my for instance example, I really want to build a blend AI bot that basically has an interface that allows you to like do everything in blend from inside of a chatbot. But it will have a bunch of tools that are connected to specific contract functionality. So things like depositing and withdrawing, claiming emissions, reading out your balances and stuff. You'll have a chatbot that sits on the interface side of it. And then that LLM has access to this tool collection that will all be associated with specific blend function calls, and then, or I guess contract calls. And then this function will be how those individual instructions are actually delivered. So when I say, hey, I want to claim my emissions from the blend protocol, it'll call this function and deliver a specific XDR, which can then be signed and submitted, either signed on the client side with like the passkey, or in my case, I'll probably store a policy signer, which has access to only do things on the blend protocol on behalf of this user. So everything can happen completely autonomously. What would be really interesting as well is if you kind of remove the user from this whole scenario, and you have the AI agent just intelligently like looking up what can happen right now. Do we have sufficient emissions to claim? And it just like runs the whole thing on its own off of like cron intervals or something like that. But I thought this was really fascinating that you have the ability to kind of attach very specific function calls or function tools onto an LLM without having to do a whole lot of like custom programming inside of the actual context of the LLM. And I don't know if you haven't spent a lot of time actually building out AI models, it can be pretty tricky. And this tool thing, function calling, actually makes this much, much simpler and very consistent, which I think is one of the big problems with LLMs, is that they're not always consistent in their responses. But if you give them tools, then it always has to return exactly what the tool parameters are setting up. And there's a specific like API reference for building these tools to ensure consistency. Once we have that, then we can start to build out these AI agents that do very specific functions, like things on top of Blend, or maybe on top of like the kalepail protocol, or I don't know, whatever you can imagine. You could basically build a tool set for it, attach it to your smart wallet through this AI agent, and now that AI agent is able to, you can basically like talk to your wallet and have it do these very specific actions without you actually having to build out a whole website for it, which would be really interesting. Again, I don't have a specific example. They have a really good, I don't have one that's specific to smart wallets yet. I'm gonna be working on that, but they do have a GitHub repo that walks through doing this very specifically that I've played around with a little bit, and it works great. Basically, you can talk to this. It's got like a little light, and you can like ask it natural language English questions, like change the color of the light to the ocean, and it will figure out what the color of the ocean is and create RGB values for it. Quite interesting. So that's what I've been working on, is starting to play around a little bit more with this. I think there's only one. If we look at the models, when you look up function calling, I think there's only one text generation model that currently works with these functions, but definitely something that I'll be playing around with, and would love to see some other folks kind of blending these smart wallets and AI agents together into interesting and novel use cases. That's something I hope you'll be seeing more of as time goes on. Cool. I'm gonna open up this one. I want to fiddle with this and look at the code really briefly to kind of give you a sense of where these well, first how easy it is to get up and running, but then also where some of the changes you would need to make for the smart wallets. Go to the desktop where all good projects start. We'll clone that, make it bigger, and then go into, open this up. And I think all we have to do is npm install. And then npm run start. And it's meant to work with like some sort of home device light, but he's also got it set up to where you can just use it in the browser. And so if I ask it, so this should all be working without having to do much else. So change the color of the light to angry orange. So we send out the instructions. It has the context of, looks like the previous conversation. It builds out message JSON. There we go. Angry orange apparently is 255, 128, and 0 blue. So if you had it's there's an actual API. So again, you've got this like home device light that has an API, and you chat with the bot, and then the bot builds a HTTP request off of the tool that it was sent to send off to that this API call. I think this ends up being the tool that gets passed to the chat bot. Yeah, inside of the tools. And it uses this API. So it builds out a tool that then calls this change light color, which calls this API. So this would be something similar to like you'd put in your, instead of all this, Govee apparently is the name of the company that does the lights. Hashtag not sponsored. You would put in all of your Stellar API stuff, Horizon, RPC, generating the XDR, maybe calling LaunchTube to submit the transaction. You'd have your smart wallet stuff, but all that would happen inside these functions, so that when you've got your actual bot that's being called, it will be using that tool. And it doesn't even look like in his tool he's actually calling a function. He's just saying I need to generate an RGB value. So it's going to pass back a parameter response, I think that's in the in JSON, that can then be passed to the change light function, which would generate this. So you'd have to modify that a little bit, where it's not just generating JSON with the tool, but it's actually generating probably XDR, or maybe it's even submitting the transaction. I don't know. You could have it where it sends back from the request, sends back unsigned XDR, and then the chat window signs it with a passkey or something, a smart wallet. There's different ways you could do it, and I'll probably experiment with several of those, but I don't know. Quite fascinating. Seems like definitely worth exploring for some of this AI agent wave that we're currently on right now. Cool. I'm going to read through the questions quick. Again, this one maybe is a little bit shorter, but I'm just now getting back to work, so I haven't had a whole lot of time, and I did take a decent break. But the AI agent stuff was definitely where a bit of my free time is gone. Okay, I'm going to read back through some of these. Lots of templates. Are we going to build an app on Stellar using Cloudflare AI? Not today. Hopefully I'll have an example for this at some point soon where we can actually use the Cloudflare AI stuff in smart wallets, and I'll have an example repo where it actually works. Maybe using Blend, maybe we'll set up a farming kale with AI agents, because that would just take the meme even further. Is an LLM fundamentally needed for such use cases? These sounds like regular REST API calls. Maybe. I think some of it too is you can have multiple tools, so it's an array. So you could chain requests together based off of your inbound request, like claim all of my emissions on both the normal deposits and the backstop. So you might have two different tools for two different things. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd see both. Yeah, the problem. So like unprompted AI, I'm interested in it, but you've got to start prompted first until you make sure that the agent has been like programmed correctly. Otherwise, I don't like you just have no idea what the AI is gonna do unprompted. And at the end of the day, it has to be prompted by something. It may not be a human, but it would be like a cron job or something. And so there is some programming that has to go into what the AI agent is allowed to do, what it does under certain conditions, how often it's invoked or called. But it doesn't have to be that a user is interacting with it from like a text field. The AI agent, one that I'm kind of interested in too, is that it's prompted off of like ledger closes or maybe ledger actions. So like you hook it up to something like the Zephyr indexer, and based off of inbound activities on something like Blend, the AI agent could respond to those conditions, and based off of like, I don't know, the last 100 ledgers and what's gone on, it can begin to make decisions on like how to rebalance your portfolio or something. So there's like, does the A mean autonomous or does it mean artificial? There's different things that AI can do. Some of it's prompted, some of it's not. It really is just, I don't know, what do you want it to do? I think we'll see both. I don't think you will. You might, but I don't think you will. It's a complex LLM. So there's like all kinds of, I mean, I have no idea how complex the LLM, what is this one that we're using, actually is. So where if you were to ask it the exact same question, if you change, I know that this particular one is like almost everything is always 255, but If you were to ask it like the exact same question again, it might realize, oh, I've been asked the same question twice, and so maybe they're trying to get, I didn't do the right thing the first time, and so I'll try something again the second time. That's a little bit different. So it's not as, it's LLMs. I mean, again, I don't know about this particular model, but they're a lot more complex than just a simple input equals the exact same output every single time. Yeah, this one says it's already angry orange. Would you like to change it to something else? So you gave it the exact same instructions and it produced a different output. And that's all basically boiled down to what you put into the LLM initially, as far as like the training of these content pieces. Oh, these LLMs are very programmable, though they're not terribly consistent, which is where some of this pain can come in. If I do need some sort of consistency, particularly on something like a JSON format, that's where these tools become really nice. Is, okay, I realize you're trying to be like clever and smart, which is what I normally want out of an LLM, but right now I really want you to use a tool to produce the exact same format, even if the variables are different. I need the JSON format to be identical every single time so that I can feed it into something like an HTTP request to some other API. But there's still a lot of interesting work that definitely needs to go into experimenting with all this stuff and how it plays into AI agents, and just like performing behaviors on wallets on behalf of users that are actually safe, and will produce the results that the user would have wanted. But now the user doesn't have to be there all the time, either to sign or even to review or construct. Right now we're in this world where the user has to construct the transaction, review the transaction, sign the transaction, submit the transaction, review the results of the transaction. It's kind of ridiculous the amount of impetus we put on the user to do everything. And you can replace all of that with AI. You can replace some of those pieces with AI. You can replace some of them with just basic function calls. There's just some really interesting work that I think can be done to, at every level, kind of reduce the level of complexity or involvement the user has to be there, while still maintaining decentralization, where the user, or I guess user custody, where the user always maintains control of their funds. You're not signing over the rights of the account to some other third party, and the results of whatever actions are being performed on behalf of the user is exactly what they would have wanted anyway. It's just interesting. There's like this, users are always performing the same functions, but we can't really hand that off right now until we have those two components of, I want to produce consistent results, and I want to ensure that the user maintains custody of their funds. So one of that, the custody we get from the smart wallet stuff that we've been doing with policy signers, and this customized interaction and functionality of wallets, I think we're going to end up getting from AI, where it just becomes much, much, much easier to build custom functionality for wallets without having to do a whole ton of really bespoke programming. We shall see, though. I don't know a ton, and I don't exactly know where we'll land. I just know a lot of work's being done experimenting on this front, and it's quite fascinating to me. Yep, AI, lose my money for me in the way that I usually lose it on chain. Exactly. Just do it faster and do it autonomously. All right. Any other questions? Anybody have anything going on that they need to talk about? Morgan, it's great to see you. Awesome that you're back. Can't wait to see what kind of trouble you get into. Definitely, you'll need to catch yourself up on the passkey smart wallet stuff. I think you'll enjoy some of that work. Probably have lots of things to say. I don't think anybody's, from like development perspective, I don't know. I know Boxy, is he here? He did like a recap that's floating around somewhere. I think it was more product oriented than like development oriented, but I don't think there's been necessarily a summary on like all of the projects that were launched or development that happened. There was a few protocols. Obviously, we released Sorbonne, but you're aware of that. There's a few new protocols that were released. We've got ZK stuff now. That's super interesting. And then a lot of the work, most of the work that I've been doing was just on the smart wallet front. Cool. All right, fantastic. Well, everybody have a wonderful week. And I'll see you around on the Discords. Go build some AI agents. Let's see what we can come up with. We will catch you all in the next one.